Thank you. So I've had fun calling myself the Sexual Harassment Guru for about 7 months now. Recently I had an interview and the lady there asked me what makes me special, that everyone here or everyone there had been sexually harassed. So what made me think that I could be the expert? And that kind of took me for a surprise. I had prepared for that interview, but not for that question. But it kind of led me to really thinking about it. You know, those incidents that you have where you're like, whoa, thrown aback, and they really stand out. So I wanted to address what makes me special. I used to be a teacher, and a lot of people don't know what that looks like. How many of you have been teachers? Okay, so you three know what that looks like. But for the rest of you, I taught underprivileged kids how to read and write for a couple of years, and then I taught underprivileged adults, adult education, and English. And so I hope that it just barely skims the surface, but it really influenced me in becoming a consultant, and because I know how to develop systems that actually get through, and they're different than someone standing up and reading a PowerPoint or handing you a manual and going over and reading that to you too. So teacher and then English major. So how many of you are English majors? 0, you guys are smart. So what that looks like is a lot of research, not a glorified book club like some people think, but actually what I focused on was writing nonfiction. So that is a lot of research. So when I develop systems for handling sexual harassment, that is not just going to that handbook or that manual and reading that and using that information. It is more like developing curriculum and really getting to learning. So how many of you have had sexual harassment training that looks kind of like this? Where someone comes in, usually HR or something, and they read the slides to you. Now, how many of you know how to handle sexual harassment properly? Okay, one person. So this type of material, I use this as a teacher for 2 reasons. To demonstrate that I had the objectives covered, so I was going to actually go over these things, and you know that's a requirement, and to meet that requirement for using technology in the classroom. As a consultant, this is fine, and for sexual harassment training, this is fine as long as this is the start. Of course, we need the definitions and we need the legal terms, but this does not foster learning, right? Learning comes from doing. And when I was, I know I talk a lot about when I was a teacher, but that was a huge portion of my life. And so when I was a teacher, we had an active shooter training where they actually came in and had the scenarios. And prior to that, I really had no idea what to do. And that really stuck with me. And so I thought, what if I apply that to sexual harassment training, where I actually give people the words to say, the ways to respond to sexual harassment. And so in my training, one of the things that I do is actually have people do role playing, because it's different. It's one thing to say, okay, this is how I'm going to respond, and it's completely different to be in the situation. So the other part that does inform my specialness, that's not a word, but we'll use it, is that I've experienced sexual harassment, so I do know what is needed, right? I know what people who are in the workplace want. I worked for 13 years to build a career. I didn't want to have to leave it. I wanted to actually know what to say and how to respond properly. I also wanted to know what was going to happen if I did. So what I developed is the roadmap to sexual harassment prevention, and this is for where I'll go into an organization and do a couple of things. And that is to do an assessment. I get to know the organization and customize it, because what works for a school is not going to work for a restaurant. And so it really needs to be looking at case studies and researching what actually happens. Once I get to know the company, then I help them build a plan to improve. A lot of people don't realize, a lot of organizations don't realize that you have issues with third-party clients. So if you are a restaurant, you are actually responsible for if someone comes in and regularly sexually harasses your employees. So that kind of stuff needs to be put in the policy, and most of the policies that I've seen so far are out of date and do not include information like that, and they don't address consequences. People want to know what's going to happen to me if I report sexual harassment, what's going to happen to me if sexual harassment is reported on me. So I include all of those things, so improving policies and training. And then I give you that plan. And you can either hire me to implement the plan and do the training, or you can actually do it yourself. So those are the two options. I wanted to share with you another point of being an expert, and that is that I wrote a book. I don't have any copies on hand because I've actually given them all away. But this is where, when I was in the experience of being sexually harassed, I wanted to know why. Why did I respond the way that I did? Why did I not respond the way that I thought I should have? And so I did what an English major does, and I researched it, and then I put it into writing. And so this was my first experience with writing a book. The name is kind of unfortunate because there are like 10,000 books called The End Game, and then the subtitle is a little bit long, but this is where you get the perspective and a different perspective on sexual harassment and a look at the personalities that are involved with sexual harassment. So for me, like I'm not very confrontational, so I didn't want to say, no, don't do that. And so I put those tools to work with the training that I do to help people who are like me and then other people as well. And so that's pretty much the gist of it. Do you have any questions? Right. She asked if I was sexually harassed, and that led me to choose this topic, basically. And to a certain extent, when I moved to Pensacola, I had already decided that I was leaving the education arena and going into doing consulting and speaking and writing. And I happened to write that book in September when Me Too exploded. And I said, this is what people need. And if you are independent doing anything, you know that what people need is not always what people want. But yes, that kind of led me to it. I thought I need to improve training, and I know that sexual harassment is the training that needs to be improved, and so I put it to work. Yes?
Is your goal for one person to go do these, or to develop a team of people to go do them around?
I would actually like to develop a team, and it kind of just depends on the future clients that I get.
So who are your main clients, like corporations? Who is the most need coming to you right now?
Right now, I'm working with nonprofits, and they are, their policies are kind of outdated, and they haven't been able to do a lot of training, so yeah. One of the questions that I have for you is, who do you think my target market should be? Because I've struggled with this. I have made my avatars and then gone after them. You know what I'm talking about, like your ideal client, and then been shot down. So, yes.
I'll answer that question first.
Okay.
What's your channel strategy?
I couldn't hear you.
What is your channel strategy?
Okay, so I don't know what that means.
Okay, so for example, maybe a channel would be law firms. Another channel might be PTOs, professional employer organizations who staffing and leasing employees, who also provide HR services and consulting to the client. The third one, and probably one of the money, of course, is the insurance industry. And obviously, they have a best interest in managing claims.
Right.
So as opposed to that one-to-one sales approach, you might want to consider 1-to-1 to 1,000. You know, you go over
Right.
one way, 1,000 people who are being trained or learned about this.
Okay, so my strategy for that was your question, right? So what I've been doing is trying to establish relationships with people like that. So one of the PEOs that I approached was Landrum recently, but they are not going for it. She was the one who asked me what makes me special. So I'm looking at that, but I don't know if I'm what they're looking for.
But also her response, because you and I consulted on this, her response was because of the nature of the business, most of their employees who were client-facing had the specialty.
Right.
So it wasn't really you.
Okay.
It was the responsibility or the services that you offer, and her employee base already had that education. So I understand what you're saying, Patrick. What if we were to, and I'd like to hear from other people, what if we were to focus on locally owned, perhaps franchise owners? Does anyone know a franchise owner who may need sexual harassment training? Or even a large insurance agency?
Okay.
Maybe it has multiple lines, and so perhaps they have 50 employees.
Right.
I don't know, what you all think of that?
Anybody? Yes.
Well, I think early stage startups that are fast growing and scaling fast that can't keep up with, if they're hiring and onboarding new employees, it gets messy, and I think that kind of training is crucial to those startups. These days, they're not going to hire a lawyer to make their own response,
Right.
whereas no offense to anyone, but like, I had sexual harassment training lawyer, I learned nothing.
Right.
So I think that early stage startups, I worked for a few and we desperately needed you to help us because they're, especially with a huge sales team, we had a lot of younger, we had an outbound sales team and they did full on, a lot of these are people, they there was a lot going on. So
So early stage startup. Yes. Okay.
This might be a shot in the dark, but I've substituted some from the side, and I was going through your training and back sort of. And what they do is the district doesn't train you, it's a third party company that trains you. And our sexual harassment section uses the power that we do on our own at home. So that might be a good company to
So offering the additional services to that company. Okay.
or something more.
Right. A lot of people have said, well, do you do anything online? And my answer is no, because I think that is the problem. So I can supplement what's online. Yes, that's a good suggestion.
Well, I think it's using your ability to articulate your English side of the brain. And be able to paint a picture and tell the story is what it needs to transition from is checking the box of if you would help them. You're talking about a culture shift.
Right.
And thankfully, and I think optimistically, culture is shifting and we know that we do where it's kind of not a problem, but it's a problem.
Right.
And so it is hoping to, it's articulating such that you raise the profile of the problem from which you don't think it's a problem. They're like, no way, we covered ourselves legally because in the onboarding process they did these supplies, et cetera. So I think it's your ability to articulate the potential of the problem and cause that culture shift. I think
Right.
That's to me where your opportunity is, because that's ultimately what we do. Right? It's to shift the culture and not just
Right. That's what takes it to the next level. And we talked about, Marcia and I talked about benefits. So one of the benefits of bringing someone in and actually doing the training demonstrates to the employees that you are taking this seriously and to the next level. And so that will help with productivity and stress-related problems. You have a question? Oh.
Figure out maybe a version with university where, I know at Florida State where I work, returns is where you're required for so many hours to learn about alcohol training, but they also require us to learn about sexual harassment. And they would use third parties. So certainly they only get it at university at one point, similar to that training, they just learn about it. And universities have a big problem with
Right.
There might be some outsourced outside organizations that are like, recruits or male recruits, opportunities, and not.
Right. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The Technical News Journal had an article about universities really aren't addressing it, but I was where maybe it was a regulatory level because they were required for their chapter to do so many hours of education.
Right. It's really complicated with university because they have a vendor system to get hired through them. So I'm trying to get into that system and build those relationships as well.
Here, you get one, a little bit.
Yeah. Yes.
Have you reached out to the FRLA for the Florida Washington?
I've been to one of their meetings, and then I followed up with, I can't remember the name, but yes, I have. That didn't really go anywhere. So, yes.
I was practicing after 17 years, so that definitely needs a lot of understanding and a lot of explanation of what all the challenges are. And I think that might be a little bit of your approach to some of the individuals that are under the area of the severity of the thing. That this isn't just a training course, this is you must have course.
Right. I've been doing case studies for today's presentation. After 1 million cups, I'm going to be talking about restaurants and what they face with sexual harassment, and the majority of the claims that have been settled this year are restaurants. So, yes.
Two more questions. One, do you get any kind of certificate or something when I go through one of your courses?
I can offer you a certificate. It's just going to be mine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll be listening to you a special, Second, does it save a business owner any money on insurance going through one of these sexual harassment trainings with their real life or anything like that?
That's an excellent question, and I'll have to do some research on that. I do know from doing the case studies that I do that when you have training and you have the policies in place and you follow those, then it does, like, there's been one case that I've read so far that was dismissed this year, and it was because of that. Yes.
Just a suggestion, you might want to enhance your you said why you're doing this, why are you doing it. You might want to enhance yourself with some certifications or some additional training that you can bring as another perfect reason that you're subject matter experts.
Okay, thank you. Someone else? Yes.
It sounds like the majority of your training is targeted toward employees and businesses. When I think about where I hear about sexual harassment, it's all the celebrities and big business owners, like potential target market, maybe get into 1% by employee rate, and just have it tailored for one person on the higher end of the income.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I couldn't hear after you said you hear about celebrities, and then what?
Like celebrities and, big money people that are in the news because of their behavior 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're losing jobs and millions of dollars as a potential target market, perhaps the 1% at a local or regional level of training one person rather than trying to train the entire company.
Right.
Positioning yourself as the sexual harassment guru of this car.
That would be interesting. And I want to speak to that because a lot of companies are thinking that because the smaller businesses are not in the news, that they're not being affected. And the reason that they're not in the news is because they're settling outside of court and they're still paying big bucks for that. And insurance companies either or. They either cover the litigation or they cover the settlement. They don't do both most of the time. Yes.
You mentioned some potential partnerships with law firms or professional associations, et cetera. Another group that's been well established as a third-party provider of people with diversity treatment. And I think sexual harassment is just another angle of diversity.
Right.
And they don't necessarily have the skill sets to be the hazardous behaviors there, but they could be groups that you can partner with that already provide a service. They've been around for a long time. And when we're a publishing company, one of our best-selling books is a book on diversity and inclusion. And it's been there for a long time. They probably don't have the talents. It's a very easy continuation discussion about another form of diversity in sexual
Right.
harassment. So they could be, lots of those weird things that are around.
Right. Thank you. Yes.
What kind of scale as far as the business size do you expect
Well,
this to be? Local, regional, consultant coming out and then takes care of the time with the client, and a lot of these are your findings or findings, or do you want this to scale nationally and go out and in person?
I want to start locally and then grow my team from there. And so then I could branch out and do more national stuff. I really want to do more speaking on the national scale and then do more consulting locally.
That's that, and I think that is to add on what everyone else is saying. Finding out what other certifications you need so that you can walk in with certifications and credentials that your clients might be used to seeing.
Okay, thank you. I've struggled with the certification thing because knowing which ones are going to actually demonstrate that is kind of difficult. But just start getting them.
Are there a lot of those types of certifications?
If you do it online, there are, and so that's what I'm trying to do is like weed through the ones that are legit and then the ones that are not. Yes.
I just have sort of two-part, one suggestion, one question. Coming up to what Jim was talking about consulting that entertainer that I started. Yeah, strategic partnership with industry consultants or companies would be a great in towards that. Or even entertainment lawyers. Somebody already was partnering with that. The question though is, do you also have a line of counseling for employers or employees to handle sexual harassment from without the company? I myself was a witness to sexual harassment from the client to the service provider. And at that, without trying to advertise against everyone before, that the employer, my employer at the time, had no experience in how to handle such an occurrence and didn't do anything about it. And it's always kind of made me wonder, what is the course of action there? Should counseling be offered to the employee? Should action be taken against the client? Should that client be fired? Should the client be out? And so do you already have counseling that way?
Yes, I actually do. And the difference, what sets my stuff apart is that it is customized. And so, sorry, let me turn this off. So my stuff is customized. So it would look like me going in and talking to that person and then developing the counseling based on their specific scenario. Does that answer your question? Okay.
So you do crisis management?
Yes. So, and what that looks like is it's just based on the research. So it's not anything certified counseling, but how to respond properly. And a lot of my research is based on the EEOC's reports that they put out. They have fantastic material, and one of the ones that I reference a lot is their 2016 task force on sexual harassment report. And so it's all there. It's just a matter of applying it.
Mark, how does your pricing work? Is it based on how many people you're talking to? Is it, do you do a one-time, once a year, or you say, hey, book me annually, or every 6 months? How does that work?
That's a great question. I was actually going to ask you guys, how much would you pay for my services? Because that's something that I've struggled with. So I've had people tell me what they think I should charge, and then I've thrown that out there to clients or proposals, and that has not been the right number, which was around $2,000. And then I have done the assessment and the plan for $500, but I feel like that's kind of shooting low for the value. So anybody, as a business owner or whatever field you're in, what do you think you would pay for the assessment and plan development?